Okay, what we're going to do today is start to actually look at some of the different styles of questions that you are going to face on Paper 1 GCSE Geography Ed Excel. First clip we're going to do today is going to focus on what I would consider to be the easier kind of questions on here. That is a mixture of multi-choice and basically numeracy skills. These are the kind of marks that you have to just be getting 100% on, because they are not testing a huge amount apart from basic knowledge and retention of information, and also numeracy skills. But the numeracy skills are very, very easy. There is nothing complicated mathematically about what they expect you to do. Anyway, let's start to have a look at some. These are fairly standard, typical multi-choice questions. All they're doing is looking at knowledge and recall and understanding. Occasionally they'll refer to geographical skills. The example we've got here, taken from last year's paper, links to a diagram. Now, for goodness sake, if it says study figure 1, it means look at, because the answers or some very, very big clues will be on here. You've then got 4 straightforward multi-choice questions. It's 1 mark, therefore it is 1 response. These are probably marked, I think, by computer. So as the instructions stay at the top, it's not colour in the box, or circle the box, or shade the box, or tick the box, or colour it in stripy blobs. It's put an X through it. I would imagine these are computer read. If you make a mistake, draw a line through the box. If then again you change your mind for the 3rd time, then you have probably spent far too long on a 1 mark question. I would actually write the answer at the side. Now this one here is using a resource, and it follows a very standard pattern. There is a question about the resource. In this case, which one of these identifies or best describes the outer core? You know, find on your diagram the outer core. You've obviously got the inner core, it's labelled for you. You then have a choice of 4 answers. Now in multi-choice there will pretty much always be answers that are incorrect. Okay, and in this case, look, you can see straight away, it's liquid. It tells you on the diagram it's liquid. So it cannot be B. It cannot be D, because that says solid. I've just eliminated 2 of the obviously wrong answers, and I've given myself a 50-50 chance of actually working out the correct answer. Okay, now it then says here, you've got 2 choices left. Liquid layer of that thickness, partial layer, molten and solid. Now if you're going to double check, is the difference between those 2 things that number? Yes it is. It has to be that one. Okay, I've just got 1 mark. If I move on to this section over here, it doesn't rely on a resource, but it's classic multi-choice. Have you learnt your basics? Have you learnt your basics about the layers of the earth? And this one is asking about the highest density. Okay, now the only one that's solid is actually the inner core. So it has to be the inner core. But again, work through the strategy. Highest density, thickness. Which ones can it not be? Well, it can't be the crust, that's the thinnest layer. The outer core we know is actually liquid. So it can't be that one. You work through almost like a process of elimination. What I do find with these style of multi-choice question is that sometimes, especially higher tier kids, you actually doubt yourself. Go for the obvious answer. 3rd example, 1 primary impact of a tectonic hazard. Primary happens straight away. Which of these is not going to happen straight away? Homelessness, loss of employment. You've got rid of the 2 daft answers. Destruction of buildings will happen straight away. Okay, this is a 30-mark question. We've had 1, 2, 3 already by just not knowing very much at all. Now, moving on, there were some other examples here from a different topic, but it's the same kind of process. They're looking at, really, have you learnt your basics? So here we've got, again, 2 examples. Which of the following is gross domestic product? Which of the following is included in Human Development Index? Work through that strategy, okay? Find the answers that it absolutely can't be. Gross domestic product. It's nothing to do with imports. It's nothing to do with exports. There is nothing to stop you eliminating the 2 daft. In this case, they've done 3 daft answers and marking it appropriately. Okay, 1 more on page 18. Definition. Do you know your terms and definitions? In this example here, it's urbanisation. State which of the following is a definition of urbanisation. Look through your answers. It has to be, doesn't it? You know, increasing number, well, it's not the suburbs, it's not living in the suburbs. Probably, no, it can't be the rural areas. It has to be the last one, increasing number of people living in urban areas. Multi-choice should be simple and straightforward, and you should be getting them. Numeracy. Numeracy questions are not difficult if A, you have a calculator, and B, you read through your instructions incredibly carefully. You must have a calculator, please, because it's just going to help check your accuracy. On page 12 and 13, this is a fairly typical numeracy type question. There is a graph to look at, and it says something about analyse figure 4. If ever I've got a graph to look at, I've got to read the key, I've got to read the labels. This one is clearly about different countries at different levels of development. We've then got foreign direct investment, look at the key again, units, US billions of dollars, and how it's changing over time. Even if I didn't know what FDI meant, I can clearly see that some countries it's increasing and some countries it's decreasing. But I've got to have read that before I move on to the numeracy. The actual question says, calculate the difference between FDI in China and India in 2014. Calculate the difference. Do a takeaway. That's all it means. But the crucial bit is identifying which part of the graph have I actually got to focus on. Okay? And I've got data down here that actually helps me. So I've got China, 2014 was 119.6, and then I've got India, 34.4 in 2014. All I've then got to do is a simple calculation. Double check with my calculator. What does that give me? 85.2. 1 mark. Easy. They've even put the units on for you. I think that's a cop-out. You know, I think you should actually put the units on yourself, but never mind. The next one is a little bit more tricky. Calculate the percentage increase in FDI in China between 2000 and 2014. It's 2 marks. If ever it's 2 marks, show you're working out. Even if you actually get the calculation wrong, you might pick up a mark for showing you're working out. Percentage increase is a little bit more tricky, but again, narrow down the bits of the information I want is China, 2000 and 2014. I've got to calculate the percentage increase. To work out the percentage increase, I've got to work out the difference. So the difference between 119.6 and 38.4 is 81.2. Okay, because that's how much it increases from 2000 to 2014. That's the increase. I've now got to work that out as a percentage. As a percentage of what? The percentage of where we started from. 38.4. Now to turn that into a percentage, all I need to do is times it by 100. Okay? That will then give me a figure of that. Right, there's something still not quite right. That is the percentage increase. But be very, very careful. Read your instructions. Show your answer to 1 decimal place. That at the moment is 2 decimal places. You get 1 mark for your working out. That would actually be marked wrong because the answer you need is correct to 1 decimal place. This was on the examiner report. And they went on and on and on about how kids actually didn't do what they've asked them to do. They missed simple instructions like 1 decimal place and lost they've done all the hard work here, but then they lose the 2nd mark because they've not followed instructions. If it was only worth 1 mark, then I wouldn't show my working out, okay? This bit on here is probably very, very unnecessary. Last numeracy example, Page 14. Oh, sorry, no, I've got 2 more. Page 14. Ratio. This has appeared on so many different papers. Again, they give you some data. This time we're looking at changes in rural and urban population within the country of China between these dates. What they'd like you to do is to calculate the ratio of the rural to urban population for 1960. Okay? If you read your information, that's the bit of data that I want. I don't know what people do with this, to be honest, because this is so simple. Ratio, rural population. What was the rural population? It was 550 millions. Dot, dot, ratio. What was the urban population? It was 100. Okay? Now, there are different ways of showing that ratio. You know, you could faff around with the millions and zeros. You could simplify it to 55 to 10. To be honest, I think it's a waste of time. Just get the answer written, get it correct, and move on. Okay, I've seen so many people write out all the zeros and then simplify. It's only worth 1 mark. It's a simple numeracy question. Just get the simple bit done and then move on. One last one, 22. They sometimes put rather a lot of very, very confusing information on their actual resources. And this one was an example of megacities and population growth. There is so much information on that figure that I can see how it's confusing. Stop, take a moment, read what it's actually about. Megacities. Okay, these are the top 15 megacities in the world. They're marked with a blue dot. Okay, as the blue dot grows, it's going to show the proportional size of it. They've got the figure for 2011 written in blue. They've got the figure for 2025 written in black. Okay, the key tells you and should try and clarify what this map is actually about. What you've got to do, there's a lot of complicated information there, so what you really must do is unpick and find the bit that you want. Now in this case here, South American megacities, okay? You should know your continents. So the South American megacities are there, right? There's 3 of them. There's Sao Paulo, there's Buenos Aires, there's Rio de Janeiro. The population change from 2011 to 2025 is actually shown as that percentage figure. So for the 3 of them, we should have 3 numbers. We should have 15, we should have 17, and we should also have 14. The mean is the mathematical average. Now to get the mathematical average, I would need to add all of those together, giving me 46, and then I just divide by 3, because there were 1, 2, 3 of them. That gives me 15.3%. What looks like something that's incredibly complicated, and that's a very difficult resource granted, when you actually go through the process and pick the bit I need, what is it? What have I got to do numerically? Have I shown my answer to 1 decimal place? Yes, I have. Have I shown some working out? There's actually 2 easy marks available. The only bit of geography really is, do I know where South America is? And for all of these numeracy questions, they don't actually test your geography. What they are testing is more to do with, not even maths really, basic numeracy skills and data handling skills. And they always rely on some kind of resource. They are marks that you simply cannot throw away. And as I said at the start, bring a calculator, because you will make your life so much easier if you actually have a calculator.